Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Thirsty Thursday Live. I hope everyone had a beautiful day and hope everyone's enjoying their evening. So, in today's episode, we have a student going into penetration testing, and he is a penetration tester today. So, we're going to learn how to become a penetration tester, going from a student to a penetration tester, and so much more. So, if you guys have any questions during the stream for him or myself, just throw it in the chat and we'll get to it when we can. So, I'm going to bring him in. His name is Evan, and here he is. What's up?
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to hear your story and hear everything, what you're about and all that stuff. So, for those that don't know, who is Evan? Like, who are you? What do you do? And just give us a little background about yourself.
Sure. I'm a person that lives in my parents' basement. So sorry for the background. I do play ping pong, but it's kind of a mess. I thought I was being able to blur out my screen, but unfortunately, that's not going to be the case for this podcast. So I used to be a college student at Roger Williams University, studying cybersecurity and networking. I'm now a full-time offensive security consultant at Echelon Risk and Cyber. What I do in my free time is I help people learn the fundamentals of cybersecurity and share my knowledge with the rest of the cybersecurity community and industry.
Nice, nice. So that's awesome. Kudos, and that's awesome because there's some people that maybe have not so much privilege or least privilege in getting the resources. So giving back to the community is definitely an awesome thing. So, what got you into cybersecurity? Like, what caught your interest? We were talking a little bit off air about the technology, and what sparked your interest into cyber?
So what got me interested was originally I was a web developer in high school, and I started to learn a bit about freelancing. I wanted to go into Fiverr to really start expanding my knowledge within web development. And my computer died one day, so I lost my portfolio because I didn't back it up. I didn't know what a thumb drive was. I didn't know what the cloud was at the time. So, as a high schooler, I wasn't really expected to know that. So I lost my portfolio and I didn't really want to rebuild it. So I tried to find a different path. And funny enough, my mom barged through the door one day and was like, "Hey, why don't you check out cybersecurity?" Now, at the time, I didn't really know too much about cybersecurity, so I would try to ask her, what is cybersecurity? And in layman's terms, right, she said cybersecurity is policing of the internet, right? So you try to defend against attackers that are trying to break into infrastructure, to networks, web applications. Sparked my interest, and I started to do some more research on it. Didn't find anything too interesting. I saw a lot of threat hunting, SOC analysts, nothing that really sparked interest. However, once I saw a penetration tester, I realized that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become an ethical hacker. I imagine myself having the green text with the black background, which obviously, as we all know, is simply not the case in the real world. But that's really what sparked my interest in cybersecurity.
Nice, nice. And yeah, and I wanted to get into that, right? Because people think that you just in a Kali machine and whatever, a black screen with green text and hacking away. So what is like a day to day or a day in a life as a penetration tester? And yeah, can you give me a little bit of background for those that want to become a pen tester? And okay, before you answer that question, was it difficult at such a young age? We don't have to disclose your age, but like at such a young age, getting into penetration testing with all the competition out there.
Yes. So something that I was required to do by my professor when I was in college was be unique. So I was very homesick in college and I didn't really know what to do. This is my first time ever being away from home. And so my professor saw this and recognized it. And instead of bashing me, he said, "Hey, why don't we start to do some meetings every Tuesday? Let's figure things out together."
Hmm.
3 months into the first semester, I asked him, "Hey, how do I get an internship within cybersecurity?" Again, I was a freshman at the time. And what he said was, "I can't get you an internship. It's just not possible, right? I can't guarantee that I'm going to get you an internship.
Hmm.
What you have to do is you need to be unique." right? So what makes you different on your resume?
Hmm.
It was a very interesting question because I never thought of it like that. I just thought, hey, the professor is going to be able to really get me the internship. Now,
Hmm.
that's not the case. So, going to my dorm, I started to jot things down that could potentially lead me to being unique within my resume,
Hmm.
none of which were really out of the ordinary, right? So I decided to move away from it. Now at the time, right, it's funny to say, but I used to own a Minecraft server and I used to develop Minecraft plugins also. So within my Minecraft server, I would go onto Discord and communicate with the community different things that were happening on the server, whether it be an update, whether it be, a new plugin that got released, something of the sort. And I thought to myself, what better way than to create a cybersecurity Discord? So I created a cyber Discord called Cybersecurity and Coding, and with a lot of work, I ended up getting it to about 700 members. To which it really died down. I didn't get a ton of exposure or knowledge through my Discord, so I decided that I was going to my Discord something called Republic of Hackers. Now, within Republic of Hackers, I learned a lot about what TryHackMe was, what Hack the Box was. People were doing live streams, so I was able to ask questions live and understand exactly what the penetration testing methodology is.
Hmm.
Again, this was not easy. It took many hours and dedication for me to really understand the pen test methodology. So one day, my member messaged me and said, "Hey, try out for an internship program at my company." Turns out I got the internship, which eventually would lead to a full time position. I declined that full time position. But once I got to Echelon, I realized this is the place that I want to be. And I ended up taking the position as an offensive security consultant. But you don't understand the amount of hours that were taking place, right? Myself and a few of my buddies at college, we would sit down for hours, day and night, trying to understand how to be a better penetration tester and how to be unique on our resumes.
Nice. And that's what I was going to segue into my next question. So to be a better penetration tester, right? So you do have a couple certifications under your belt, right?
Yes.
So with those certifications, do you think going back a few, prior, say for your internship, prior to actually being a full-time pen tester, did those certifications help you? Well, if you have that certification today, will it help you be a pen tester in your day-to-day? Yeah.
Yes. So certifications are great when it comes to trying to understand the fundamentals and methodology around penetration testing. Will it guarantee a job? No. But it can definitely help you along the way to understand the fundamentals of penetration testing. I'll give an example, right? I don't have the OSCP. I'm currently going for the OSCP. But
Hmm.
what really sparked my interest was the EJPT from INE Security. So when I got the EJPT and I told my Discord, everyone was excited, and someone asked, "How about you go for the ECPPT exam, which is the next level up?" And once I took the ECPPT exam, that's when Echelon messaged me and said, "Hey, we think you'll be a good fit." So it really depends, right? Especially how you network and how you present yourself with those certifications, right? If you just start getting certifications and you can't show that you have the knowledge and capability of
Hmm.
doing the job, they're really worthless, right? But if you go out and you show people, "Hey, this is what I did. Here's something that you can learn from, this certification," then that's going to help you eventually obtain a job or connect with people within the industry.
Awesome. Awesome. So you're saying you're going for your OSCP now. Why did you decide to go for your OSCP versus other stuff like CRTP or PMPT or any of these other CRTO or whatever, any other offensive red teaming certifications? Why the OSCP?
So the OSCP is kind of a standard right now, which I hate to say, but it's true. It's the standard of penetration testing, right? It tests your capabilities of time management, but also your methodology around enumeration and exploitation of systems. So you have 4 Active Directory boxes and 3 standalone boxes, and you need, I believe it's 70% to pass the OSCP. A lot of job applications have the OSCP. Not a lot of job applications have the EJPT, ECPPT, EWPTX, or any of these smaller certifications. I have started to see some PNPT on job searches, but OSCP still takes the cake.
Of course, absolutely. And cool. That's awesome. So how far are you, into the OSCP training and how are you liking it so far?
So I'll give the truthful answer. The truthful answer is it's extremely tedious. The course is very to the point. It doesn't really teach you the fundamentals that I thought it would. Now, I'm a bit more experienced, right? So I kind of skipped through the course, but from the labs itself, from the exercises, they're kind of a waste of time, at least for me, someone with experience. With someone without experience, however, I think it's a fantastic and perfect opportunity to really build out your skill set. So, with that being said, I'm going to give my biased opinion, which is it's kind of a waste of time for the experienced folks, but for the beginners or aspiring penetration testers, it is, I think, crucial to at least try out the certification. You don't need to obtain the certification. However, if it's $1,600, you might as well, attempt it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Cool deal. So, from the certifications that you have right now, what was the most difficult one, and what is the most like satisfying one that you've taken?
So for both questions, it's going to be the EWPTX. And the reason why I say that is because I specialize in web application and API penetration testing. So when I went to go take the exam, I heard a bunch of rumors, I guess you could say, that the exam environment was extremely unstable. And when I went into it, I realized it was extremely unstable. So it was definitely a challenging exam based on, being very CTF-like and trying to figure out the pieces to the puzzle, but also the instability of the environment itself. However, it looks great on the resume because it shows that I am an expert or an extreme version of a web application penetration tester.
So cool. That's awesome. I only have one more question with the certs, and then we can, go off into another subject. So, OSCP right now, do you want to do like the OSWE after that since you're specialized in application and web app? Is that something that's in your pathway?
Definitely, yeah. So my strategy, right, coming into penetration testing was I want the EJPT first, the junior penetration tester. I want to see where my methodology is. Then I went to the ECPPT because I wanted to really hone in on exactly what I was missing, which was pivoting, basic buffer overflows, which buffer overflows are kind of out of the way nowadays. But
Mm-hmm.
buffer overflows, really understanding some of the common exploits that used to be on systems, like, for instance, I don't know, making one up, dirty cow, could be one, or MS-17, something of the like, right? Eternal
Mm-hmm.
blue, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to go into the more advanced stuff, right? So the web application stuff and get into more of the niche. So that's kind of what the OSCP is for, is to help me learn Active Directory hacking. So after the OSCP, I plan to go for the OSWE or the CRTO. Don't know which pathway I'm going to go, but if I could take both, that's great. If I can't, most likely it'll be the OSWE.
Nice, nice. So, and you said something really interesting, and this you can convey whatever you want to convey. You said something really interesting about an accomplishment, previously about getting DA credentials or DA access to a client, right, on a pen test. So for those for those people that don't know what DA is, right? We don't know what a DA is, and how can you obtain DA credentials or DA access in a network? What does that even mean?
So DA is domain administrator, which means they have access to the entire network. And the main goal of a penetration test is to see how many attack vectors you can get to DA. Because with DA, you can dump all the hashes of users within the Active Directory environment.
Mhm.
So, you'll first start out with no credentials, right? You'll try to figure out, hey, is there an SMB null bind in place? Is there RPC null bind? If there is, you can get users that way. And from there, you can try password sprays. So, we try a bunch of random passwords, right? So for instance, it'll be a season with the year and an exclamation point at the end. So for instance, winter 2024 bang would be a great password to try right now, because a lot of people, especially mediocre, mid-size organizations, they'll use these kind of common passwords to really kickstart someone's career within that specific company,
Mhm.
right? So, if let's say you work, I don't know, I'm making one up, at a pharmaceutical company,
Mhm.
right? And COVID-19 was a thing recently, right? You could try COVID-19 Bang Bang, for instance,
Mhm.
and you could potentially get a hit. Now, obviously, that's an outdated password, I'm assuming, but it could still be in play to this day. We don't really know, but it's all about a guessing game. But once you start guessing, then you can start doing more of the advanced attacks like Kerber roasting, ASRep roasting, really seeing what vulnerabilities are on there, and slowly prevest your way up to a domain administrator.
Cool. So that's pretty interesting. That's awesome. So did you like jump into like Bloodhound? Did you like see your shortest way pet? Like, did you use these tools as well, like in your engagement?
Definitely. Yeah. So it really depends on which kind of test you're in, right? So you can do a red team, which is stealthy, or you could do a penetration test, which is a bit louder, right? So Bloodhound is a very loud tool, right? It's
Hmm.
bound to get, detected. But Bloodhound is a great way to really map out the network and understand what permissions, what computers that user has access to. So yes,
Hmm.
we do use, I use Bloodhound all the time. You'll use Nmap a ton. You'll use KerbRoot. You'll use, CrackMap exec or NetExec now,
Net exec,
people
yeah,
like to call it.
yeah.
So, everyone has their own different tool set, but I try to stick with the CTF like tools, but make it so that way I don't get detected.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm the same exact way. Like I literally have my like you said, methodology is key. Like it is like pretty much rinse and repeat, right? You're gonna probably start out with responder, listening, first thing in the morning, and then listening for something that gets juicy. Maybe you get a hash, and you can take that hash, and blah blah blah, and just go down the mix of, like you said, crack. Oh, now net exact, right? Like we pass that around. If we have a hash, we crack that password. That's awesome. So you said you specialize more in the web application stuff, right? How often do they throw you into like a network pen test? Do you? So okay, I have a question. So for that DA, access, did you do an external first, get your way in from the outside, or you was strictly internal?
Yeah, so most of the time what happens with network tests is you start from external, you do some OSINT, potentially do phishing, right? Depending on how crazy the engagement is, maybe even some vishing for that matter. And then
Hmm.
once you really understand their external network, if you
Hmm.
still don't gain access, then you can move on to the internal where, they'll plug in a device, they'll give you a VPN connection to access their internal network and you go based off of that. Most of the time what we like to do, or I like to do for that matter,
Hmm.
is I don't like to get credentials first. I like to see if I can get credentials just by password guessing or by seeing if I can figure out a way to enumerate users, whether it be through LinkedIn, find someone on LinkedIn, figure out what combination, whether it be first name dot last name or first initial last name, something along those lines to really figure out how can I get a user on the internal network. Because once you do that, then you can figure out how to password spray, right? If it's first letter, first initial and then last name, get the top 1,000 last names, get the A through Z for the first initial, brute force, and you'll probably have a ton of users that you can work with. Those are probably not going to be all the users on the network, but at least you can have a starting point.
Yeah, cool deal. Cool deal. Awesome. That's all awesome stuff. So that's more for like the network stuff, right? So is your role or like is your duties like web app stuff and just external internal? You said API, right? But API, and correct me if I'm wrong, I had, you probably know API University, that they have their
Yes.
API. Dan is the co-founder and stuff. So he, I'm no API guy by any means. So he was saying something along the lines as like there's no really like no CVEs and APIs, right? It's not, it's more like a logic, a misconfiguration and stuff like that in order to leverage. Just like I think John Hammond put a video out recently about the healthcare something like an API, and he just was able to exploit it. But then he
Yes.
used. So is that the truth? Like I said, I don't do API hacking, so I'm not sure what that entails. But what does that really entail? Like for someone that does it.
It's definitely a lot of logic errors. I do agree with that. I will say, the biggest one that I really go for are IDOR vulnerabilities, which basically means for anyone who doesn't know, you can access information about other people using your user, right? So let's
Hmm.
say you're on a healthcare application, you can see other people's healthcare information from your account, which should not happen, right?
Hmm.
I consider that CVE worthy. Now, I've found a few IDORs on false applications where I was able to, go from point A to point B with just a standard user. And I got a CVE out of it. Now, are those CVE worthy? I'm really not sure. Everything is really up for debate. I just learned recently that any bug in the Linux kernel is apparently now a CVE, which is kind of crazy, right? So instead of impact, they now see a bug as a CVE. So people take CVEs in all different kinds of ways. I see people go on to phpplanet.com, pull up, a college student's PHP program, exploit it, and then they get a CV out of it. So unless something big comes out of it, let's say a production, software, I don't really see CVEs as such a big deal because anyone can get a CVE, right? You and I, we can create a PHP application, exploit it, and then post it on to GitHub, and then you get a CVE. It's really all about the perspective, right, of what
Hmm.
you take as a CVE.
Yeah, cool deal. So now let's go ahead and just take it a step back, right? So you went to college, right? You have a bachelor's degree in cyber in networking. So I'm coming in green, right off the baseball field, don't know shit. Now I come to Evan, I shooting the shit. Do I go to college or do I just go get some certifications? What do I do?
So my take on college is don't go to college, and here's why.
Hmm.
College is extremely expensive, so you're going to be in debt. Now, certifications are less expensive, and you get the knowledge that you need to at least start, kickstart your career in cybersecurity.
Hmm.
The only real reason why I went to college was two things: to meet people and to get an internship to kickstart my cybersecurity career. The internship, like I already mentioned, really didn't work out because my professors couldn't really kickstart my internship career, although one of my professors was able to get me into an internship. But when I talked initially to my first professor, he was really not into getting me right internship. He wanted me to work for it, which I already knew I was going to have to work for it. I just didn't realize how hard I was going to need to work, toward that goal. But for the amount of knowledge that I got out of college, very slim, right? There were a few courses that I understood and I really enjoyed, but then there were other courses where I found were just really not useful. For instance, democracy, right? Why do I gotta learn about democracy, right? It just doesn't it's not part of my major, but it's also a core requirement at
Hmm.
Roger Williams to take democracy. Same thing with math, same thing with science, all this other fun stuff. For social aspect though, I was able to meet a bunch of great cyber people, two of which now work with me at Echelon. So I was able to bring them on board, to Echelon just because of us networking together within, Roger Williams. So should you go to college? Yes, if you want to meet people, especially people who are within your major. I think it's a
Hmm.
fantastic, place to be. However, I think certifications kind of take the cake just because one, they're cheaper, and two, they give you the knowledge that you need to actually perform the action of either being a penetration tester or something of the like.
Nice, nice. Yeah. And, I'll sprinkle some stuff on there too. And I feel the same way, right? And, I don't know if you got lucky because you said, certifications are no debt, right? Like, yeah, you could maybe like the OSCP, yeah, it's $1,600. It's a pretty penny. It's, like when I went to undergrad and grad school, like, grad school wasn't too expensive, at least for me. Because I went to WGU, it was not that expensive when I went. But undergrad, I had a scholarship, right, from bowling. Crazy, right? I'm a fucking
Bowling.
bowler. Yeah. I actually used to bowl at Woodhaven Lanes a lot
Oh
in
wow.
Queens. So, and yeah, so I just like ended up getting a scholarship. So take that back. If I never got that scholarship, right, I would have never went to college, and people ask me like, was it really worth it? Was it, and the same thing, like, yeah, we took math, science, all this, my cohorts were like, super cool because I got to meet people. Like you said, like that was probably the best thing out of my, college experience, undergrad more because grad school was all online, so I didn't really meet anyone
Right.
physically. But like undergrad, like it was pretty cool. And then we would go to meetups and we would do, hacking events or little, little things. This is before, hack the box and try hack me. This is when you're going on Shodan and doing some gray type stuff, right? Yeah,
Right.
you're sitting in a coffee shop or, sitting somewhere with your little alpha card and, cracking WEP codes, keys back then, right? That's before, like, I think WPA2 just came out. Um, that shows my age, but, yeah, so I'm a little up there, but yeah, so that's definitely some good information. So let's see, where can we go now? So like, Do we have any questions? Obviously, we can, if there's any questions in the chat, if you guys are listening, if you want to know anything, if you want to have, if you have any questions, just shoot the shit. Let me see, Dustin, yo, howdy. And yeah, how's it? I don't know. I guess how's it going? I guess that's for owned. But
Yeah, something
cool.
that I will say as well, right, with the degrees, or we'll go back to the college degrees quickly,
Mhm.
is a lot of job applications do have college degrees on there. So when I was in my first internship, it was at a bank on Long Island. And when I went to HR just to fix up my resume and really get some insight into how a resume should be built, they
Mhm.
told me that a college degree is only good for your first job. After that, they don't look at the college degree. They look at your experience and how much experience you have within the industry.
Mhm.
So, just something to keep in mind for people who want to break into the cybersecurity industry, your college degree really doesn't mean anything after your first job, right? They want to see the experience. They want to see what you did within that job role, where they're going to either hire you or they're going to decline you.
Yeah. So that's a good question. So I don't know this answer. It just popped in my head. So when you say college degree, right? So if I was to take that and you're saying like, because I got a little lucky with my first job, I knew someone and whatever. I didn't have to have really like go through that whole process of HR and this that and that. Do you think when you say a college degree to get that gatekeeper just to get into the door somewhere, like, do you think, okay, I can just go to community college, get an AA degree or an AS degree and say, fuck it, that's it. I'm not going to go for my bachelor's. I'm just going to have this. I got, a 2-year college. And now you think that's doable? You think that's fair enough?
I've seen a lot with BS degrees, right? So they want to see the 4 years, I think. I'm
Cool.
not going to speak to it because I really don't know, but from
Hmm.
the job applications that I've seen over the years, it seems like they want that bachelor's of science degree in some sort of technology niche, right? Whether that be computer science, cybersecurity networking, cybersecurity as a whole, right? WGU does a fantastic job, right? They're cheap, they're online, and you could take it really whenever you want.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a perfect mixture, right? If you're looking to go into college, I would strongly recommend, especially for cybersecurity, I would look at WGU
Yeah.
as
And
an
the good
answer.
thing is, you know, like, because I did went to WGU, like I said, for my master's, and a few certifications behind me, I was able to get during my program. Now the certifications changed, but I was able to get like certified ethical hacker, certified hacker and forensics investigator, ECSA, LPT, license penetration test, CISSP, and SSCP. So these were all, in my in the curriculum. And the one good thing, or there's a lot of good things about it. So say for an example, like I had like CCNA, CCNP, some Cisco stuff, some Microsoft, VMware. So those, had leverage in my course, because if I had the certification, it counts as credits. So that's the good thing about, at least for WGU. Like you can literally, I did it in I think 13 months or something like that,
Wow.
just a little bit over a year. So just because I had those certifications, that I was able to eliminate a lot of classes. So
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
I will say like the CISSP, I believe is what, 5 years you have to,
yeah,
well, you need
5
under your
years.
belt.
Yeah, 5 years, or you can get sponsored, and you can have like with you, you could probably do it, have 3 years, because you have a bachelor's degree, and if you have, I think it's 2 to 3 years. I think they changed it, but I think it's 2 or 3 years in a certain domain plus a 4-year degree that would equate to your 5 year. And if you have under
Okay.
5 years, I think it's if you have under 5 years and you don't have any degree, I think you have to have a sponsor, and then with that sponsor, they can validate that you work in the field for a certain amount of time in the domain, and then you can take the exam, but you don't get certified until you get that 5 years, and that's when you get accredited with your ISC Square uh, accreditation.
Okay. I
But
didn't
it
know
could,
that.
yeah, it could have changed. But I took my CISSP in 2015, 2000, yeah, 2015.
Okay.
So it's almost 10 years ago. So it's been a while. And yeah, man, fucking hell, getting old. So what about WGU? I see a question there. Does that change your point of view of universities? Uh, what practices or skills do you focus on after classes? So CJ, I don't think. he's in college anymore. You're not in college anymore, right? You already
No,
graduated.
no, I'm not. I'm not. Although I
Go
can
for it.
answer the question. So I initially focused on the methodology and brainstorming how penetration testing was actually being conducted, right? So what were the five pillars of penetration testing? And then after that, I would go on to try hack me, hack the box, really figure out exactly what I was missing, right? What key components was I, having struggles with? Was it initial access? Was it enumeration of services? Was it post exploitation? Was it privilege escalation, right? What exactly was I struggling with? And from there, I was able to really grow my knowledge, within the penetration testing field.
Nice. And where did you feel was the most difficult part for you? What was like, fuck, man, like this shit took me forever. You know,
Yeah.
what was,
Um, so I still study to this day for close to 6 hours every day. I've been doing it now for almost 3 years, I'd say 4 years. And and it never gets old. It really doesn't, because I learn something new every day. So it's completely fine. But what I will say is the hardest part is always getting initial access, right?
yep.
Really understanding where is the vulnerability lying, because once you get in, you know for a fact there's some sort of privilege escalation vector.
Hmm.
Same with initial access, but it's a bit different, because privilege escalation, you have to have a specific methodology in place, right? Is there a SUID bit? Is there, a specific scheduled task run? Is there a, hidden process, and you have to use, PS spy, right, to see exactly where, that process is being stored? Is it being used with root, right? How can I abuse that service? So there's definitely a methodology for each thing, right? It's not just a strict methodology for pen testing as a whole. It's a
Hmm.
methodology for initial access, privilege escalation, exploitation, and post exploitation as well, right? What can you do after you gain administrator access, right? You would most likely want to run secret stump to see what other NTLM hashes are. Can you, use that hash to either crack it, or can you pass the hash to gain access to another system, right? Stuff like that that you really need to think about, which unfortunately I really don't think CTFs teach you too much about, but the
Hmm.
OSCP does a very good job with teaching you that.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And I believe the same thing, I'm not saying one versus the other, but like the PMPT, and because when I did the OSCP, there was no Active Directory, right? There was 5 years ago, yeah, 2018, so 6 years ago. So it was no AD, and everything was, the proving grounds. Everything was on Vuln Hub, all the Vuln Hub boxes that they were, you know, I don't even know how proving ground. I haven't been in proving grounds in like 7 years, but that's all good stuff. Like initial access for me was always the hardest thing. It's like fuck, dude, like, and especially like you said something interesting before, right? Like you don't want any usernames. You just like, yo, like abc.com. Let's go to hunter.io. Let's see if I can someone, enumerate some users. Let's see the naming convention. Then you can just set up a
Right.
little Python script and just be like, yo, like this is the naming convention. This is what I want to set up. Let's go to town with, all these different names. And so that's definitely some interesting stuff. So, for Leonardo? What about UW does change your view on college universities?
No. Again, they're expensive, right? Now WGU, I believe, is what, $5,000 a semester,
Yeah, I
something
think
like that.
so. I think now
So
yeah.
yeah, so they're fairly cheap, right? But if you get the OSCP, if you understand your methodology, if you can prove that you understand how to perform a penetration test, then you already have your way into penetration testing, right? So if let's say you have your OSCP, you do research on the side to obtain CVEs, and you also do bug bounty hunting, right? Let's say that you have those three things down. If you do bug bounty hunting for about a year, if you collect CVEs, if you really start to hone in on your skill set, you could totally obtain a job, right? Jobs are extremely difficult, especially in offensive security, which I've been stressing a bit, I would say, on my LinkedIn post recently, is that people really should also pay attention to blue team.
Hmm.
I don't think blue team gets enough credit really for what they do. If I were to go back and start from the very beginning, I would say that I would probably be a SOC analyst to start. And the reason why I say that is because as a red teamer, right, as a penetration tester, you have to really understand the attack vector. but you don't know how they're detecting your attacks unless you do advanced research. With SOC analyst, that's your job, is to detect them, figure out how can you find a way to figure out their attack path and that kind of stuff, which I think is extremely important, especially if you want to learn about evasion and how
Hmm.
to really stay stealthy within the network itself. So for people who want to go into offensive security, that's a fantastic thing. And I always recommend people to go what they believe they could do, but also don't disregard the SOC analyst positions that are out there, because it can help you in the long run to become a better red teamer, better penetration tester.
Yo, I harp on that all the time. Like same thing. Like prior to even getting into the offensive security or cybersecurity, I was a network engineer, system engineer, cloud engineer, VMware engineer. So I didn't, I wasn't working as a SOC analyst, but I was working as an engineer, engineering the systems that now we hack, right? So it has that little, maybe not so quite like, okay, now I need us to tighten up this hash or this IOC or whatever, something like that, in an EDR or something like that. Because, like you said, like maybe EDR invasion, if we want to try to stay more stealthy, if we want to, if you're running Cobalt Strike, if you're running some Sliver or Havoc or whatever you're trying to run on your network for a C2, how can you invade that little, that process, right? But
Right.
I
Definitely.
think definitely getting into like a SOC analyst role. And you're so right. Like they don't get enough credit. Like, and I'm gonna say this, right? It's gonna come from my mouth. Like, there's way more jobs as a threat hunter, as a blue teamer, whatever, cybersecurity engineer, SOC analyst, whatever you want to hell fucking what do you want to call them. There's way more jobs over there than there is pen testers. The reason being is because if you want to be a pen tester, you're gonna you're going to work for a company that does penetration testing, right? For a SOC analyst, you can work for anyone and their mother because they need to defend their network.
Right.
So folks out there, you have to realize that, like don't just be like, oh, fucking blue teams is the people that look at sim things and whatever you think a blue teamer does is, because red team it looks fancy and they fucking put a hoodie on and a mask. Like, it's not like you said in the beginning. It's not like that. Like there's a lot more research, like OSINT, like especially if you just get a full black box assessment. If you have no, all you have is the rules of engagement. This is the IPs you can attack and go to town, right?
Right.
And it's it could be a lot more stressful too. You know what I mean? Especially if you're doing it, like you said, a pen test, like there's only 30, 40 hours to do that pen test,
Right.
and so it's like, and you want to find something, right? Because you don't want to go to a client debrief or, write a report like, okay, like we weren't able to get shit, what I mean? Look like a retard. But, like, it is what it is, like I think the blue team doesn't really get enough fucking credit, but, you
Definitely.
know, hopefully
And
people out.
you brought up reporting, and I think that's extremely important, right? I don't think a lot of people realize this, but as a pen tester, you don't hack, right? You hack things, but if you can hack things and you don't understand how to write a non-technical report to a C-suite, you're going to fail as a penetration tester, right? This was my most recent post, and it did get some backlash from people because, you know, the truth hurts, at the end of the day. Because a lot of people, when they first start out in cybersecurity, especially penetration testing, they think all you do is hack, right? That's why I say a bunch of times, try hack me, hack the box. They do teach you how to hack. They don't teach you how to report. Report is the best thing that a client really needs, either for compliance or just to see what vulnerabilities lie within their network. So if you can't communicate the vulnerabilities to them, if you don't know how to remediate your own vulnerabilities that you found, you're gonna fail as a pen tester, right? It's the hard
Hmm.
truth. I learned it the hard way, right? When I first started out at Echelon and I found, my first vulnerability, I was super stoked about it. But then when it came time for report writing, I had no idea how to write about, the vulnerability that I found. And I needed guidance from one of the seniors to really understand exactly how to write that report. So I don't think, people really understand, right? Penetration testing isn't so much hacking as it is reporting, right? I've been spending over a week now reporting my findings for a client. And that happens almost every time you do a pen test, right? It's not just this client, but it's every client that you're going to be working on, because at the end of the day, they pay for the report. They do not
Mm-hmm.
for you to hack into their systems. They actually don't care if you can break their systems, because if you can't communicate them, then the test is worthless at the end of the day.
Yeah, because and you made a valid point. Like, if it has to be some kind of compliant, regulatory compliant thing, and that's just what they have to show. Like, we got this test. They paid 10,000, 20, $50,000 for that fucking report. They don't give a shit what you did. You know what I mean? But so for the reporting, let's stay on that topic for a second, because I hate reporting. I fucking hate it. So do you come up with a template? Like, do you have like a template that you use? Are you using some kind of automate, like Plex track, right? We can just take it, boom, 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 and it's fucking does it for you. It automates the process. There's another one, PwnDoc. You ever heard of PwnDoc?
Yes, Pawn Doc.
Yeah. So I was tinkering around with that because, like I said, I was trying to fucking automate this thing. As I don't want to fucking type anything. You know what I mean? I just want to fucking hit a button,
Right,
put my screenshots in, and bing bong, fucking out of there.
right.
So what do you do for your uh, for your reporting? Do you have a how do you do your reports?
So I use a template for the most part, and I just go through Word docs. But I do know people use Plextrack, people use TackForge. There's a new one out called Sysreptor. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you've ever heard of it,
Yep.
but it's a fantastic tool. I strongly recommend it, especially for people trying to get into OSCP. It really automates your, tool set. Plus, they already have an OSCP template out there for you. But I'm no sponsor of them. I'm just letting you know that that's one tool that you can use, right, for the OSCP exam if you so choose to. But for the most part, right, you have a template. You're going to have the executive summary. You're going to have your findings. You're going to have the detailed report for the IT folks, the developers, really understanding what the vulnerability is. The screenshots are for them to not only see the vulnerability, but for you as well, right? So when they come back to you and say, hey, we need a retest of these vulnerabilities. Can you retest it for us? You're not going to sit there and try to figure out how the vulnerability took place, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you have proper screenshots and documentation throughout the engagement, you should have no problem replicating your own vulnerability, because most of the time these retests are going to be 3 to 6 months out from when you originally did the report.
And I wanna say something. I want to harp on this for a second. I want to see if this ever happened to you in your career quite yet. I know you're still young in the career. Have you got onto an engagement and obviously we're testing for 40 hours, right?
Yes.
That 41st hour, the 42nd hour, it's out of our control. You have to. We only test them when we're done testing. You take away our privileges, you take away our accounts, you disable whatever the fuck you do. That's it. It's a wrap. You know. Now the 42nd hour, they get fucking hammered. Something happens. Have you ever had that happen to you? Like, and then like they point fingers. You didn't test this. This was fucking vulnerable, or whatever. Like, have you ever had that happen to you or anyone on your team? Like, that get that backlash?
Yes. So my first ever test as a full-time employee, it actually happened to me.
Mm,
I found a vulnerability, and I told the trusted agent, like, hey, this is a vulnerability. You may want to fix it. You may not want to fix it. Do whatever you want, but it's going to be in the report. And once I submitted the report to him, he ended up going to my boss and telling him that I didn't test specific functionality of the application, which was simply not true. But I didn't have any proof that I tested it at the time, because I didn't have Burp Suite Pro to really backtrack all the endpoints that I saw in the web application. So I had to do an extra few hours of testing, to prove that there were no vulnerabilities within the API or within the web application itself. So yes, it has happened to me.
yeah, that's awesome. So I don't. Did I ask this question? If I did, just say we answered it. But what is yours? What do you like better, like the network pen testing or web app? Like, what is more your like? This is my bread and butter. The other one I just do because they throw me on an engagement. Like, what is your preference? I guess I can ask.
So web applications are definitely my go-to. However, I have started to enjoy networks a bit more recently, but my niche is primarily for web applications and API testing.
Nice, nice, cool. So obviously we have about 15 minutes. I want to be kind of your time. Is there any questions for? Uh,
Want to get better. So Nmap scanning. Let's talk about Nmap scanning. There's a lot to do with Nmap. So Nmap, you could do a few things, right? You could do a ping sweep, right? Find the hosts. You could also perform actual port scans, get those scripts in place. when you perform an Nmap scan, right, the first thing that you want to do is you want to find the networks. You want to find the subnets that are within, the network. So you'll go, let's say, if you have a 192.168 network, you're going to go from 192.168.1.1 all the way to 192.168.254.1. And you're going to see what networks are within the organization itself. From there, you're going to try to figure out, okay, am I supposed to be stealthy? Am I not? That really depends on the arguments that you're going to want to use. Now, with Metasploit, however, I've never used Metasploit on an engagement before. It's never happened. Maybe one time, but I've done so many pen tests really that I don't remember. But for the most part, I have never used Metasploit ever since I started OSCP prep, which is about a year ago. I have not used Metasploit since. So it's been close to a year now since I've really honed in on Metasploit. I don't know too much about it anymore, but I do know that it gets detected for the most part, whether you're using, if they're using Windows Defender, which most of the time they are, if they're using CrowdStrike, Sentinel-1, most of the exploits on Metasploit are not going to work, and you're going to need to figure out evasion techniques. So Metasploit isn't really as popular in the real world. It's more of a CTF tool, from my understanding, but I've never had the need really to use Metasploit. You're not going to be exploiting MS-17. You're not going to be exploiting, Eternal Blue. It's just not something that you're going to use in a real world environment, because that could break things, and you don't want to break a client's environment, because that could be kind of costly, I would say, for your company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree, right? With the whole Metasploit, it is a C2 framework, right? It's more of a, I don't want to say entry level, because I still use it. I do use Metasploit, like because a lot of my stuff I'm doing more network stuff, but obviously I'll use more everything you can have, everything you use in Metasploit. At least for myself, we have it in Packet, right? We have it with the in Packet suite. So, like, say for example, if we have to get SPNs, or if we have to, like you're talking about co-browsing, if we're trying to dump that and blah blah blah, TGT, you know, everything is normally in just in Packet, or you can just download a whole bunch of tools out there that are pre-installed, and you can just run that as well. But yeah, I remember when I was doing the OSCP, and yeah, when I think I don't know if you're able to still use it. I think you're only able to use it one time.
Yes.
Yeah, um, but yeah, definitely try to like learn how to do your techniques and without Metasploit. You know, it's cool. It's easy to like, spin up something really quick and have an interpreter and just like run something and have a callback, like but you could still do that with HTTP server and, Netcat. We can still like do that same concept. But yeah, if you ever seen me doing any of my videos, it's strictly for that CTFE stuff. So
Yeah.
the,
I will also say, right, CTFs, they want you to explore Google as well.
mhm.
So, they're going to say, hey, find this exploit, or you're going to have to find it, by yourself without them actually telling you. That's, again, not real world, right? You need to make sure that the exploit is going to break something, that's not calling back to, an external host, right? It's actually malicious instead of, good for your purposes. So you need to understand how to review the code, how to review and understand what the exploit is doing before you actually perform it on a real world environment.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's a very good point, because if you're doing a try hack me, if you're doing like this, and they have a GitHub link that goes out to, just I think was it last, or I was doing something with a school down here, and we were I think it was on try hack me. I forgot which room we were doing, and I clicked on one of the GitHubs for the exploit and one of the CVEs. I'm like, okay guys, like if you go out there in the wild, don't just be like, okay, CVE 123, and now this, actually, Sublime text it out or nano it out and make sure it's not doing any fancy shit going out to some C2 server in fucking Hong Kong or
Right.
whatever, you know? So, all right, so we got about 10 minutes. Any other questions? I know we have some questions up here. Is cloud pen testing very different? Do you do cloud?
Not that much. So some web applications are on the cloud. I will say that I've done cloud pen testing specific for SSRF vulnerabilities. So if you don't know what SSRF vulnerabilities are, they're server-side request forgeries. I'm actually doing a full-blown webinar all about SSRFs next week on Tuesday for Echelon. So, if you're interested in, learning more about, SSRFs, you can always go there. But essentially what it is you can read internal files or port scan internally through specific requests and responses on a web server, right? So let's say, an EC2, right? You can access specific things within the EC2 if it's vulnerable to SSRF.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a very, that's a really bad, I guess, response for the, for the question, just because I've never really done a full blown, cloud assessment. But from a web app perspective, you'll see SSRFs, you'll see, these different cloud-based attacks that you can perform. You can use Pacu, for instance, to, get a console session and actually
Mm-hmm.
access the specific, what do you call it, container, I guess, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
the EC2 instance,
Yep, the
and see what's
containers.
going on within the EC2 instance.
Nice. Nice. I dig your style, Pat. Thanks, Mike. Fucking always trying to be swagger juice over here, you know? How you doing? All right, let's bring it, my dude. I don't know. See, like the LinkedIn guys, I'm not sure who it just says LinkedIn user. So I think maybe if you're not following me, if we're not connected, it's, it just says just LinkedIn user. I'm just trying to look through here. CJ, yeah, we got CJ's. Is it better? All right. The OSU hacking and obtaining for best the best for you the ability to write a report through a technical report. Totally agree with someone wants to get a hacker, don't realize the hacker takes. Yeah, that's very true. I've seen many great offsite pros that kill it, technical knowledge, and fail this. Yeah, I don't know who this LinkedIn user is. I want to show this thing right here. Whoever you are, this is so true. Like, and I was one of them, right? I'm not saying there's way better, there's way better people out there than me, but I was one of them. Like when it came to that, you know, when it came to that point, I had my help. I'm going to say that, right? I'm not the best writer. I'll keep it at that. But yeah, that's so true. Like that's why I think people, I think companies and because people are behind companies, right? So people like, fuck it, like I'm a hacker. We hate writing reports. Let's automate this shit, right? This is why like PlexTrack and all these other people probably even exist because they know how much of a fucking nuisance it is. But
Right.
yeah,
Definitely. Yeah. Report writing is definitely tough, especially at the beginning of your career. Now, if you're experienced, right, and you still struggle with report writing, it happens. You just got to continuously figure out your, I guess, area, right? Like how exactly can I explain something in terms that a 5-year-old child, right, can really understand it. And the executive summary, I'm still learning how to write executive summaries. I suck at them. But essentially what I've learned over the past, year or so, year and a half now working with Echelon is when you write an executive summary, you've got to be as non-technical as possible, right? Say, I found X, Y, and Z. Here's the impact of that vulnerability, right? That's all they care about. What you
hmm
want to do in the detailed summary, however, is talk a bit more about, okay, how exactly did I exploit it, right? What payload did I use to eventually get to where I was, right? For
hmm
instance, let's say, an IDOR vulnerability, right? I replaced one with two and I received another person's data, right? And go through exactly how you did it so they can replicate it and you can replicate it for the retest as well.
yeah, exactly, exactly. All right. Oh, Kevy, how you doing? Look at Kev Tech. There he is, the great mate. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Uh, I'm a dev tech guy. Awesome, awesome. So, yeah. So I guess we'll end this. Wait a few more minutes, see what if there's anyone else that has any questions. But so what is it after work? What do you do to decompress? Right? Like, what do you do to like get away from the computer? Just what do you enjoy doing outside of techie stuff?
I don't. I know that's just the damn truth. After work, what I do is me and my buddy Chris, we always go on to either Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, or now OSCP, and we just start studying together.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be studying from 5 o'clock all the way to 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. That's what we do on weekdays. Weekends, we go out, we hang out. We party, we do really whatever we want to do. On
Mm-hmm.
on the weekends. I enjoy pickleball. I've been starting to get more into pickleball. If you don't know my username, it's tennis player. So I used to play tennis, but unfortunately, I lost all my skills, due to college. So pickleball it is.
Pickleball is actually fun. I only played once, and it's funny because I'm down in South Florida, and you see a lot of oldies out here, but they'll fuck you up.
Yes,
Don't
very
try those.
good.
Don't try those oldies. They don't
They're
have to move
very
much,
good.
but they'll make you fucking run around. You
Right.
know, they
That's for
just
sure.
they know where to place the ball. Like I only played once, and I'm like, damn, they they know what they're
Definitely.
doing. It was pretty. And ping pong, I actually played ping pong in high. Like I'm not sure. Do you know where John Adams in Queens?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So it's like right by Aqueduct. Uh,
Okay.
so by the Bell Parkway.
Hmm.
And when I was in when I was in high school, I took Mandarin for 4 years. I was took Mandarin at
Oh,
junior high.
oh,
Yeah.
oh.
So obviously, like you know, Asian and Chinese and Taiwanese, a lot of them are really
Hmm.
good at ping pong, right? They're fucking really good at ping pong. And there was this kid, Danny Wong, on my block, lived on my block, and we played every single day. And obviously, I practiced my Mandarin. He practices English because he just came from Taiwan, and we played ping pong every day, and I got pretty good. I got like now it's been
Yeah.
probably 5 years since I played, even like just hitting the ball around. It's been a few years, but yeah, it was definitely ping pong's fun. So if I ever come to the neighborhood, I'll hit you up. Fucking
Sounds good. I do see a question from Ty Kyles. It's on LinkedIn, but I'm not sure if you see it on your end. It says, "I am working my way into pen testing. Are books good tools for learning?" I've never used a book. I don't like to read. I like to visualize things. So I'll go to John Hammond. I'll go to TCM Security. I'll go to IPSEC. IPSEC is fantastic. XCT is also another great YouTuber that you can go watch. IPSEC Pet. All these different YouTubers can really help you understand the pen test methodology. If you want to go to more advanced, techniques, a book may help you out. But for beginner purposes, I think all the tools that you need are on YouTube and Google.
hmm no, I agree. I don't like to read either. So it's like the same thing. Like I'm more of a visual learner. Like I can visualize it. I can watch a video, and I watch the video over here, and then I have my main Kali box or whatever I'm running, and but this is one thing I wanna say as well, right? Because I get this all the time. I'm sure other people get it too. They don't probably fucking answer, but people watch the video to walk through the process, and they're like they're walking through a process, but they're just literally doing what I'm doing or doing what the person's doing, like, oh, nmap blah 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 host name, and they get
Right.
the result, and it's like, okay, they're going to go do this, but this what I did didn't work. For example, right, my most viewed video on my YouTube channel is how to hack WPA2 Wi-Fi keys, right? Everyone's asking me the password.txt is not on my desktop. So what is that saying? That's pretty much saying you're just watching my shit, and that password.txt is not going to be on your fucking
Right.
desktop.
Of course not.
It's my
Right.
password list that I have on my desktop, you know? And like, oh, I can't find it. You're never going to fucking find it. I'm not giving it to you. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so this is what like those whole like just like fucking like going step by step. Yeah, it's cool to like learn them, like you said, methodology, learn what you're gonna do, but understand what you're doing. You know, that's like for example, I don't run. Let me see, like Dirtbuster every day, right? I don't run this every day. So sometimes I have to like, I can look at the man pages. I have a cheat sheet, but I can just as long as you know some of the syntax,
Right.
sometimes I'll forget, now now I remember like dash X, right? For extensions, right? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know how the fuck I remember that, but like, that's one I always forget because I always like, I'll put whatever, txt, comma, PHP, comma, HTML, and the fucking thing would always error out, right? Because I would forget
Right.
the dash X.
Right.
So, like, so just when you guys are watching or learning from anyone, myself, John, TCM, whoever, IPSEC, whoever these people are, like when you're going through it and you're learning or you're watching it just because you want to submit your flag on your platform, sometimes now I think it's better because now their flag is not the same as yours, so you're fucked anyway.
Right.
So you still have to go through it. So, like you have to understand what like enumeration, when you're scanning, when you're doing your process, let's call it the methodology, understand those steps and then take those steps and make it your own, create your own little flavor for it. But that's one thing is annoying. You know what I mean? It's like that
Definitely.
I get like maybe 20 comments a day for that video. I can't find the password.txt
Right.
file. Or you get the idiots that fucking troll you. You're like, oh, that's not going to really happen. It's not going to crack it that fast. I'm like, come on, you fucking moron.
Right.
It's
Of
to
course not.
demonstrate. It's to demonstrate. It's the process, right? It's not fucking. You're not going to find my password out there. But if you understand how to capture a four-way handshake, like I did a pen test and I used my Wi-Fi pineapple, right? And I was able
Mhm.
to, put myself in mode because they were using Radius and you authenticate. And I have a captive portal and I have my portal and my whatever Starbucks, McDonald's. You can create your own captive portal, right? You can just throw it in your, SSH to your thing, go into CD portals, and then put your JS scripts and your index.php, whatever the fuck it is. And but yeah, I want password.txt on my desktop. Yeah, good
Totally.
luck. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
fucking find that thing for me.
I will say taking good notes is extremely important, especially, for this industry. There's so many tools, there's so many different things that you need to learn, understand, and grow your knowledge in that you're not going to remember it all, right? So I
Mm,
use Obsidian personally. I know some people use, Notion. That's another great platform that you can use. What's another one? Cherry Tree,
cherry
right?
tree.
So, there's a bunch of different things that you can use. And I say Obsidian, right? Because you have that spider web, I like to call it, right? Where you can link different notes together, right? So you can have a page dedicated to Active Directory, and within there, you can link your notes for Kerber roasting. When you click it, it goes to the Kerber roasting page and that kind of stuff, which I think is extremely helpful, especially when you're trying to perform a pen test, right? You have the quick access to your notes. Something that I do all the time is I look at OSCP note guides from other people, right? So I go on and I just search up OSCP notes. There's thousands of different resources for OSCP notes, and you take those notes and you make it into your own, and that can really help you understand different tooling that you'll use, for a penetration test.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, we're at the top of the hour. I want to obviously respect your time. Is there any? I haven't looked in, so if there's any other cool questions, we'll answer that and we'll bounce. Because obviously I can only see what's in here, what's on YouTube. If there's anything like I didn't see that one that person put on. Um, okay.
Oh, let me see.
Okay.
So, if people want to chat with me and stuff like that, try to kickstart their career, I'm more than happy to give off some guidance. That's what I do in my free time as well, right? Besides hacking and doing all this fun stuff, I do enjoy giving people some guidance into how they can obtain, either a certification or how they can, break into the cybersecurity industry, whether it be blue team or penetration testing. So, Pat's got my LinkedIn. This is live stream on LinkedIn. You can find me, and you know we could chat. Also, my Discord as well.
Yeah, and that was gonna be my last thing, right? How can people connect with you? So that's pretty much it. So if anyone has any questions after the stream, throw it in the comments, and obviously link up with Evan if you have any questions for him. And I really appreciate everything for today, and hopefully we'll have you back on another time. And I
Thank you.
appreciate you sharing everything, Evan. So have a good one, and bless up, dude. See you soon.
Take care.